welcome. Today I have the privilege of welcoming two very senior leaders, women leaders, to have a very candid conversation about their journey, about what works for them. And I'm really looking forward to taking a lot back from them in terms of what they have achieved so far in this thing. So let me first introduce, and perhaps in my true style, I like my guests to be introducing themselves. Richa Singh, she is the CFO for Pernod Ricard for Asia and India. For India. So Richa, for you, a quick introduction to our guests in terms of what your journey has been, in terms of the leadership that you have seen, the complexities over these years, and what works.
Okay, what still works, in short, is really a lot of passion and hard work and commitment to a few causes that you pick up. Yes, I've had almost a 25-year career spanning different industries, spanning different cultures, worked in India, outside India, FMCG, medical, and now a very happening space, Alcobev. And yes, I mean, it's different. It's a lot of fun. And it brings to you a very different kind of challenge of catering to a lot of different kind of compliances. 26 states we operate, and each state operates very, very differently. So there's not a dull day. It's a big team out there in Pernod Ricard. In fact, doing things the right way.
On those high spirits. Moving on to you, Manjari. I mean, I've seen your journey in terms of how you have evolved in terms of both legal compliance and kind of managing that complexities from a global company to a very core India complex areas, right? And so tell me a little bit about that journey to start off with.
Well, it's been close to 35 years. Seems like yesterday. I've traveled from being an academician and moving into being a corporate lawyer. Two companies that I worked for, General Electric, 5 different roles, global, Indian, South Asia, very different industries, right from industrial to capital to healthcare to power, and then finally from a very global outfit, in a true sense, a multinational, to a very Indian multinational, Indian-come multinational company in India. Maruti Suzuki was always known as a very Indian-start company, and now, of course, a Suzuki outfit. So it's been very diverse. I mean, and I think it's the diversity that has always been such a challenge, and also very, very exciting. I think my biggest learnings have been from moving from one sector to the other. You have different set of things to do, different set of compliances, as Richa earlier alluded to, new things to do, new areas to understand. And I think what has been my mantra always has been, of course, passion. You can never do anything without passion. I think we've had these discussions very often. And a lot of perseverance and resilience, I think, because no journey is easy. There will always be more challenges, but then there's no fun if you are not able to face challenges and overcome them. It's always never very easy. So I think what comes up is that, then I think some things that have worked for me have been that, I've been always very, I try to be very professional. I'm sure everyone is, but I think when you are in very sort of environments which are not easy, I think professionalism comes to your, aid. And I've always thought that's a great thing to do. And secondly is that being very collaborative in your approach to problem solving. And of course, having a very structured way of breaking down things. In large organizations, every time there's so much of complexity, you get daunted by the things that come at you. So I think I've always adopted that knack of breaking them down into simpler units and seeing how we are going to tackle them. And usually we manage to do it.
Awesome. I've seen you do that. So I think I'm like a fan from that angle. But what I'm hearing from both of you, I think, professionalism, of course, right? The being from diverse background to where you are, and of course a stupendous growth story. Agility is the key, right? Now, Richard, for you, in terms of agility and finance function and leading, like you said, the sector itself is fairly complex in terms of the widespread variation that exists in it. So in your view, how do you bring agility and a more like a forward-looking finance function? That would be your...
So I'll break your question into two. First is agility. And a lot of people may not know that, but you just can't survive in AlcoBev if you don't have agility ingrained as a value in yourself and the organization. Why is that? When we're talking about the larger FMCG or the industrial goods, other industries, there are a few changes that happen once in a while in the 5-year budget, right? Or if there's a major change happening in technology, then you'll have a revamp. Now, in AlcoBev, pretty much every year we have a change in every state. And there are times when the governments decide to completely change the way they do business with AlcoBev, which means the taxes change. Sometimes whom you bill to and ship to also changes. Today, it could be an open market, a distributor market, like a normal Unilever or Procter & Gamble selling to a distributor selling to a retail. Tomorrow, the government might decide, okay, from tomorrow, I will make it a corporation, which means I will control it and the manufacturer can only sell to me. Okay, so now it's not just the model changing. When the model changes, all your contracts change, whom you bill to ship to changes, your system setup changes. Sometimes the training we need to give to our sales team also changes, right? And this happens 26 states every year, right? Not a lot of change every time, but yeah, there'll be at least 5-6 states. So if you're not agile in your thinking, in your ability to manage cash, which is, collections and payments, and in your ability to manage your systems very quickly, then you will have situations of business loss.
Right.
And we've never had that as an organization. So yes, that's how we live at Pernod as a finance team. I think me working across different industries and always being on the watch out. I'm a driven person. I carry that with me. I carry it to my teams. It's infectious. And that approach to learn, less question, sort of catches on to the team as well. So that's how a forward-looking team, which is being told every day, come up with a solution. Why has this happened? Be inquisitive. So instead of just being a team that's dishing out numbers and reports, they're actually looking at how do I do better business partnering? How do I partner?
Wonderful to hear that. And that kind of creates me absolutely seamless segue from a legal perspective, right? With how the finance and the business is aligning to it. I think in the recent time, a lot of regulatory changes, new acts coming in, and ensuring that the compliance works hand in hand with where the business does. So how is that learning curve, the swiftness of that? How do you approach from that perspective? One is this whole experience that you bring on, but the agility of the entire organization to follow the route and suit of what a regulatory change may require. So what's been your approach to?
I think your approach has to be one of, you just got to be on your toes. That's another word for agility, I'm sure. That, with the regulatory environment so dynamic, I mean, every second day there is a change. And we also operate all across the country, in the length and the breadth of the country, and also export. So there is, sometimes it's about the emissions, sometimes it's about CAFE norms, sometimes it could be a change in, the way you have to file in certain labor laws, etc., or Factories Act, or how do you seek an environmental clearance. I mean, it could be, it moves, the spectrum is so wide that, you tell yourself you're handling a labor issue right now, and the next moment it could go to an environment issue, and the third moment it could go to an emissions issue. So it's a whole wide variety of things that you have to manage. But I think the best way to do it is, I think I've looked at 2-3 things in this which have worked. Is one, that, get a team that is reasonably good and know their job. And then kind of make sure that the scopes of work, etc., are very well delegated. People know what they need to do. I've also always stressed, and it's something that I drive personally. I'm pretty driven in that manner myself, but I also make sure that the teams are very close to their commercial stakeholders. You can't stay in a silo. As I always keep telling my team, if you had to do that, you should have been in a law firm and not in a corporate. When you're in a corporate, your job is to enable business. And you have to ensure that it's done in the shortest possible time, in the best possible way, and you're mitigating risk to the extent possible. So I think being close to your stakeholder, appreciating the problems that they have, knowing that where the pain could come from, a sense of anticipation. Compliance is best done when you anticipate. Like I was once told, G, that, have you learned to look behind the corners? And also try and see and anticipate what can come. So a little bit of that and a mix of all of these things with the drive to be a great and effective business partner, I think works.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that is what you've seen over the years, right? How a CFO and a general counsel role has evolved in the last decade largely. That the whole central is that there is one team from a business driver. So everybody is in that business driver and contributing to what it is. And of course, the finance function and the legal and compliance is now a very integral part of it. So I'm going to now slightly switch the gears and come, back to you, Richa. I know you've authored 2 books, and one I have the privilege of asking you is in terms of the Powering Success, Shaping Leaders, the Mentor Advantage. And I just wanted to contextualize it in terms of the mentorship for women, and in reference to your journey. How much do you correlate to it, and how much importance do you give in terms of it's more for women as compared to now than what you would have when you started your journey?
Okay, so the way I would look at it or see it is, look, it's for everyone. Anyone who wants to be on a journey of continuous improvement, wants to succeed, needs a sounding board. And we've always needed it. Awareness or, support systems that could facilitate a mentor, tell you you need a mentor, make them available, wasn't there with you. And today, organizations like ours, led by Purnalika Maruti, they're taking a very, very active step in making sure that their developing talent has access to it. That is one part of the journey. But yes, you provide access, you advocate, you tell people to look out for them. But the real deal over there is, are you hungry for it? Do you really want to improve? Do you want to see a better version of yourself? Unless that hunger is there, no mentor can help you. And that's what I realized for myself. I had a very good mentor, and somehow there was always an accountability in me that come back to it me next time. Be accountable to yourself. What did you do with the feedback?
Right.
And that is what really helped me, and that's what I've talked about in this. That how do you make sure that, what is it you take to a mentor?
Right.
Then how do you act on it? And that is how you actually work on success.
And you've kind of really sort of brought out the essence, which I personally feel is a great mentorship journey versus not, is accountability. So for the mentee, how accountable are you and how vested are you in interest for you to better? Manjari, any anecdotes from your mentorship journey, giving, taking, and especially in reference to women, right? I know when you've joined and you have really sort of supported a lot of, you're the first of the one in your current organization, clearly. But also I've seen you kind of grow a lot into saying that I need to bring a more inclusive culture within my team. So what's your thought process around that? And where do you think is the mantra for the success of that initiative?
I think, again, mentoring is a great thing. But provided, I totally resonate with what you just said, that you need to be there to be wanting it for yourself. When you go out and seek, you may not have official mentors assigned to you. You learn by pure osmosis. You look at people, you watch them, the desire to learn should be there when it comes. And I have realized that my biggest mentoring has always been by learning from my leaders. Just by watching them, seeing them, seeing how they look at a problem, address an issue, how do they, face a press conference, or how do they manage to be in a room and then catch attention. So if you are wanting to do well for yourself and you feel that here's something I would want to aspire and achieve, you're always looking for those small cues, and oftentimes they are not done in a very, very structured setting. It's all about picking it up as well. But I've also been extremely fortunate in my journey to have always had good managers. They've been very hard taskmasters, I must admit, but I think they've always been invested in my success. And they've always given me those opportunities and, always encouraging me to take a more difficult path and help. Seeing that, even to my last CEO in Maruti, Mr. Aikawa-san. Every time I would go to him and I would tell him, this is just difficult. So he would look at me and he would be a patient listener. Most Japanese are, but he was particularly so. And he would look at me and he'd, smile. And he'd say, "You can do it." So it's just that little thing that you can do it. He gives you the opportunity of being heard. Half your problem is sorted when you're just heard, right?
Right.
And then you're just told that here is a person who feels that you can go and do it. It just acts as the necessary motivation that you need at that time to go out and do it. So I think mine has been more of this nature. I did have one structured mentor. G had this program of putting high potential people into mentorship, and here was this man who was allotted to me, and he's somebody I enjoy such a great relationship with now. But at that point in time, I was young and I just walked in, and he was the guy who was always, you would wish him, he would never wish you back. He was a man of very few words. I thought we wished him on his birthday, and he says, "What's so great about turning 40? And prompt came to my reply. I said, "You won't feel like that when you turn 50. So, so it was like, and I got,
Lovely.
and he was allotted as my mentor, and I just went up to my boss and I said, if you wanted me out of the organization, you could have told me otherwise. Then why him? I don't know. I had so many run-ins. I don't think it's a great start. So he says, no, he's a guy who's so well connected and networked, and there's so much to learn from him. Go and give it a shot. If it doesn't work, then come back. And I tell you, I went in with I told him, I said, and for the first time, I think in my entire life, I used the word trepidation. So I said, I have walked in with a great sense of trepidation. And he says, trepidation, what does that mean? So I said, because I'm scared. I said, I don't know whether I'm here for the right reasons or not. And he just broke the ice, and we talked of reading racy paperbacks. I mean, that was it. And ever since then, I have always gone back to him for some serious bits of advice, which he would never give very sort of straight, in a straightforward manner. You had to pick up between the lines and read. Always a great thing. But mostly it has been rather informal. And I've also stepped outside of my immediate professional field. I've had a great mentor in my mother. She's one of the first few civil servants. And as a lady, she's seen all of that. So I would always go and talk to her. Family, I think friends, they've really been a huge part of this journey. I call them out and thank them for all the support and advice they've given. As regards my team, I think I'm there. But sometimes what happens is, I believe that if you lead by example, a lot works. You can never expect them to do something you don't do yourself. So I think but just encouraging them. I think by natural process, it has been that we have a fair amount of gender diversity. But I also like to bring in more diversity. And we took a cue from all of you. We had a blind young intern, law student, who came and interned with us.
Wonderful.
And it was such a pleasure to see him and work with him and get them to present. I do a great internship program, so I think that is a huge mentoring exercise for young children who are coming from law school.
Great to hear on the whole inclusivity agenda that
we do that.
Wonderful.
And I hope that we can do much more of that overall in Maruti Suzuki. We are trying. We've made some progress. We have women working for the first time on the shop floors, which is both at Gurgaon Manesar and now at Karkoda as well in our new plant, which is a huge step in the right direction for a very conservative hardcore production company. And even at the senior level, I'm always there. Most of my younger colleagues keep reaching out. So, are there and they'll come and talk. Sometimes these talks happen over lunch, or they'll meet in a corridor where I'm waiting for getting into a meeting. So somebody will stand, chat for 5-10 minutes. Those are more informal. So that's my way of doing it.
No, thank you very much.
Sorry, because
yes, Richard.
We asked for women, and asking for talking, I just thought I must say it. When it comes to women, I do urge them to really go out and find a mentor outside their family, outside their father, their brother, their husbands, and even their manager.
Truly objective point of view coming.
So there's no bias. There's no, a selfish bias out there that, if I give her this advice, this will be the consequence for me. It should be really what's best for you as a professional.
Right.
and support.
Right. No, I mean, I think it's amazing, and to hear from the two of you that this is very central to what you do in your work life. We, of course, like I said, focusing a lot of women in compliance and ethics, and we call it the vice now, and rightly so. But if, like you said, Manjri, that you can do it, while we are hearing a lot of that. But the accountability part of it, Richa, which you mentioned, if I was to say as a closing for this conversation as well, what would be the 3 things you would want a young generation just starting in finance or any of the stream, actually? I don't want to restrict it to finance, legal and compliance, at least from that perspective. What are the 3 things saying that, hey, do this. This has been my learning and I would love to pass it on to you today.
First of all, show up.
Show up.
Show up,
Awesome.
be there. That's your diligence that shows. Get into the details, because when you're starting on early, it's all about understanding the nuances of trade, whether it's numbers, whether it's laws.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, stay honest and humble and money. It's all those edges. That's what's going to take you to the next level.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Manjri. What's your?
What more should I add? I just said it all. I think I absolutely resonate with what you said. I think being good with what you do is very important. And what I always also say is, in sport functions, oftentimes people just get so buried in what they are doing, they sometimes forget to market themselves appropriately. When I say market in the positive way, that do you even let people know of the good work that you've done and how you've impacted the organization?
Right.
I think is a big learn for your. It helps your growth. People want to know what you've done. So I think that's another thing I would tell people. Besides what she said, of course, adding to them. And lastly, I think as you grow in your careers, your professionalism, your expertise becomes more of hygiene. It's an expected thing. I think what's the secret sauce is that how do you navigate? How do you manage the environment, the people? I think that is very, very important in this.
So to all of us, you listening out there, you can do it. These women have done it. And I think the takeaway really is stay hungry. Stay focused to what it is, and to sum it up, I think being authentic in what you're doing is largely where it is going to lead you. So thank you very, very much to the two of you spending this time with us today, and really happy to hear what you've said so far.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.